Hello everybody, long time no see. I know I haven't made a video in quite a while. I might talk about this more at the end of the video, but there was really no big reason for it other than I just didn't feel like it. But I decided I did want to kind of talk about all the manga I've read in the first quarter of 2026. I've been reading a lot of novels slash word books, as I like to call them, on this channel. And so I didn't really have enough manga to talk about per month for one video, so I thought I would just wrap everything up for the first quarter in this video. So the very first manga I read in 2026 was The Girl Who Raised the Dead. This is a manga put out by Smudge, or Living the Line under their Smudge imprint. I think this is number 5 or 6. Number 6, I want to say. I could be wrong. But I've picked up all of them, and I have had it's a mixed bag for me, but that's to be expected with any a collection of horror manga. This one was okay. It's about this girl who gets struck by lightning and then comes back from the dead, and then she's able to raise other people from the dead. So this one was more in line with the first couple ones I've read from Smudge, which were Her Frankenstein and UFO Mushroom Invasion. Just kind of silly, goofy, very out there manga. I enjoyed this one. I don't really remember it as much as some of the other ones I've read though, but it was okay. I do really like Living the Line and Smudge overall. I pre-order all of their books, and even if I don't end up enjoying the manga, I like supporting them. They're also pretty close to me, so I kind of think of it as supporting a local business. So yeah, that was the first manga I read this year. And this is going to be mostly in the order that I read the manga, with some exceptions. But next up, I tried to read Crossgame. So this is a baseball manga slash romance manga, and we'll get to that in a minute. It was published in 8 omnibuses put out by Viz, and so this first one is a 3-in-1. I ended up reading 4 of the 8 omnibuses. I know this is a very beloved manga and a very beloved creator. I understand that. And the problem I had with this manga is exactly what I was expecting, and that's why I put off reading it for so long. The fact that it's a romance manga, or at least partly a romance manga, I just knew I wasn't going to like it. There is, of course, quite a bit of focus on the baseball part, and when they were doing that, it was fine, but it is not a majority of the manga, I would say, at least in the 4 omnibuses that I read, and it ended up focusing a lot more on the romantic relationship, especially as these characters got older. It starts out when they're kids, and I enjoyed that part a lot, in the first omnibus especially. Something happens and it was really surprising to me. I didn't read the synopsis at all before I started this, and so I was shocked by that, and I really enjoyed it. But then they age up the characters a little bit, and then there's a romantic element, and then there's love triangle stuff, and I lost interest quite quickly after that. My other problem with this manga, and I don't know, again, if this is an issue for this creator specifically. I know this creator is very beloved, as I mentioned, so I don't know if it's a problem with them or a problem with the Shonen Sunday label or the magazine that it was published in. But the more I read, like, every new omnibus had more panels that were just close-ups of characters' butts. And it was kind of driving me insane by the time I got to volume 4, omnibus 4. So that, combined with the fact that I literally didn't care about the actual plot of the manga at all, yeah, I dropped it. Now, I'm not opposed to reading or trying out another one of this creator's works. I'm not opposed to that. I will probably try again. I think I have Short Game put out by Dempa, which is another baseball manga, but this one was definitely not for me. And I knew that, so it really wasn't fair for me to buy this manga and read it, because I had a very strong feeling that I wasn't going to like it. And as per usual with those very strong feelings, I was correct. But this one was just not for me. Next up, I read all 6 volumes of the Tokyo Revengers spin-off called A Letter from Keisuke Baji, and this one is okay. I like Tokyo Revengers, well, the ending is not very good, but I kind of still have fun with it. But this is a spin-off manga focusing more on Baji, and I should remember his name. He's Chifuyu, right? That's his name, right? Yes, that's correct. So kind of how they met and a little bit of their story. And then it ends up doing that thing that Tokyo Revengers does, where it focuses on this bigger picture of other middle school gangs, which is still, the entire thing is ridiculous, but it's kind of fun. This was okay. I thought it was a perfectly fine read. I didn't need to own all the volumes, which I think I own 5 out of the 6 volumes, and I don't need that. I'm going to unhaul these because I don't think I'm ever going to read this again. But it was a fine read. I liked seeing these characters again and seeing where they came from, their foundations, how they met. That was all fine, but the actual plot with the other gangs, I couldn't really care less about that, at least in this part, because obviously this takes place before the original series, so we know it's not really going to be a huge deal because we know what happens in the original series. So yeah, it's fine. If you really, really love these characters, I'm sure you will enjoy this. I like these characters, but they were not my favorites in the series. But it was enjoyable. It was a fine way to spend a weekend. So far it's been pretty lackluster in terms of reading for the year, but next I read my first big hit, and that was Veda by Clamp. I read all 3 omnibuses, which is the entire 10-volume series, I believe. So I think I would call this like a dark fantasy series, and it is a retelling / adaptation / something to do with the Rig Veda. So we follow our 2 main characters. One of them is named Yasha. He is a really great warrior, one of the strongest people in this world, and he has taken it upon himself to protect this young boy called Ashura. But Ashura is basically prophesied to bring about the end of the world. And Yasha knows this, but he's decided to protect Ashura anyway to hopefully try to prevent that. Now, this is my 3rd Clamp work at this point. I read Tokyo Babylon and X, which you can see up there. I greatly enjoyed both of those, especially X, even though it's not finished. I loved the tone of it and just the tragedy and how high the stakes were, and I just loved that. And this felt a lot like X. I think this is Clamp's first work. They definitely did it before X, and I can totally see the similarities. There's this prophecy, as I mentioned, that talks about these 6 stars that have to come together, and that's when the world will end. And there's a similar kind of prophecy thing happening in X, and I just loved this just as much as I enjoyed X. Clamp's artwork, of course, is amazing. Here's one picture I can show you. I want to find a really good one that I posted on Instagram at one point. Oh well, I can't find it, but I've been really enjoying these older dark shoujo manga that I've been reading. This, X, Basara, they've all been just perfect fits for me with this beautiful artwork, but also very dark content that's happening here, and the tragedy involved. I love it. The ending especially, I think it's controversial. I haven't actually looked into any opinions on this manga, really, other than people saying that it's good. But I haven't looked into anything that people are saying about the ending specifically, but I loved the ending. I thought it was great. I don't want to say anything else about that, but I really love that. I loved all the characters in here and their storylines. They each kind of get a focus. The villain also was really interesting, and his backstory. This is great. I'm really glad I read it, and I've been enjoying Clamp work so much. But my problem now is that all the other ones I want to read, like Tsubasa and Holic, are all out of print, and I don't like searching for out of print manga anymore. So I'm gonna have to find a different way of picking those up and reading them because, like I said, I've been really enjoying these and I want to read more. And now we're going to go back to disappointing reads. And before I even say what manga this is, I'm going to start out by saying this is not going to be a fair review. I read a few volumes of this manga on the Viz app or the Shonen Jump app, whichever one it is. I think it's Shonen Jump app. And I knew pretty much immediately that I wasn't going to enjoy it. And in any other circumstance, I would have just dropped it right then and forgot about it and maybe mentioned it very briefly, but I was buddy reading it, and so I was committed to finishing it, and that is just not a good idea. This is more evidence that you should drop something if you're not enjoying it. So I don't think this manga is really as bad as I thought it was, but the fact that I was forcing myself to read it made me like really hate it, especially the ending. We'll get to that. But in any other circumstance, like I said, I would have dropped it and we wouldn't even have this problem. So anyway, the manga I read was Siren. I read all 16 volumes. This is a shonen manga, a shonen action manga. I think it recently got an anime adaptation, so it's kind of had this little mini resurgence. But I don't think it was really that popular beforehand. I know that Viz has reprinted it, but it was out of print before. And a lot of the times when things are out of print, I say they're out of print for a reason, and I stand by that with this case. But anyway, I read all 16 volumes of Siren. It's about this boy who develops these like psychic powers, and he is pulled into the future, like this post-apocalyptic future, and along with some other people, and they have to figure out why they're there, what happened to the world, and if they can fix it. At least that's what it starts out as. But my main complaint about this manga is that it was very clear to me, at least, that it was really lacking direction. The author started out with something that they wanted to do, and I didn't mind that. It was not like super engaging to me, but it would have been fine if they had kept going with that. But I think what happened was it wasn't performing very well, so the author decided to switch it up and do something a little bit different. And that didn't work either. So he tried to continue and switch it to something a little bit different, and that also didn't work. And so I feel like if he had just stuck with any of these things, and I have to be vague because I can't spoil it, but if he had stuck with any of these plot points and let them develop, it would have been better than switching focus, because well, I don't care at that point. If you are changing the focus of your manga, you've built up these characters, at least a little bit, you've introduced these characters, this group of characters, and then that's not doing well for you, so you switch and you kind of neglect some of these characters. Even if you introduce new characters, which I enjoy, the fact that you have switched focus and we're losing those characters that we were introduced to, I don't like that at all. And I think at the end of this section, I'm going to talk a little bit more about something that might be considered a spoiler, but I'll wait until the end. So yeah, there's that. I don't like it when a manga can't just stay focused, and I understand the way that shonen manga especially are written is that you have to keep the reader focused, otherwise you can get canceled very easily. But like the first thing that the manga introduces is this kind of death game situation, and by the end of the manga, that's completely written off. We're not even focusing on that at all anymore. So that was disappointing. I also didn't care for the art, especially at the beginning. It does get better, but I never felt like it was great art. It was fine. It was easy enough to follow, but like the backgrounds were very boring. So that's just a nitpick. And I want to give credit where credit is due. It did have some good moments, especially around volume 5, 6. So those were good. I think it was those volumes. It was somewhere in the like early third. Some moments were good, but by the end, like I said, I completely lost any engagement I had with the manga, and the characters I liked were not in the story anymore. And the ending especially, to me, I think I've heard that some people say that it was getting good and then it just got canceled. I don't think so. I think the last couple volumes, the battles were actually like too long. There was a lot of focus on battles that ultimately meant nothing, and I feel like that time could have been spent doing something else. But then the final battle, this thing that they haven't been building up to, it just happened, that felt like an afterthought. Like very quickly we have to, again, it got canceled, so we have to end the manga. I just feel like the effort was being put in the wrong place. Like, why do we have these really long battles that ultimately don't mean anything when the author has this other idea they want to do, as we can see at the ending, but we didn't build up to that at all. It just was a reveal and then it ended. Does that make any sense? I feel like if you haven't read this manga, maybe it doesn't make any sense. My biggest complaint is maybe kind of considered a spoiler. I'm not going to say specifically what happened to which characters, but I am kind of going to be vague about it. So if you don't want to know anything, go ahead and skip forward to when this image of Siren is no longer on the screen. But basically, if you want to kill off a character, a main character, just go ahead and kill off a main character. Don't write out a character from the story that we've been introduced to. We kind of become attached to them, although this happened so early on that I don't know if you really have enough time to become attached to them. But you've created this cast, and I like the cast, and then you write out half of the characters. But we know very early on that these characters are not actually dead, and they're going to come back. So we're just sitting there waiting. We're waiting and waiting for them to come back, and I'm not going to say whether they do or do not come back, but you know that they're not dead. And Why do that? If you're gonna write out a character, a main character, just kill them off. So then there's some emotional impact and it can influence the main character. Why just write them out of the story? I don't understand. I don't understand that. It's not like we were getting like little glimpses into what they were doing. There was like one or two, but for one character and not one of the other characters. I don't know. I just feel like there are so many different plot points in this manga that were introduced, and clearly there was a plan for them, but again, the author had to switch their focus to hopefully get more readers back so their popularity can go up in the polls and they can continue writing the manga, but it just felt way too disjointed for me. I like things that are clearly thought out and planned ahead of time, and so I feel like Siren was really lacking in that regard. So those were all the series I read from start to finish. I also read some other various volumes that have come out recently / semi-recently. I actually did a 12-hour readathon with Bizarre Individual. That was a lot of fun. I just tried to read as many volumes of manga as I could to catch up with some things. Some of those I've already mentioned. Some of them I have right here. So here's a bunch of series that I've continued reading, and I've been enjoying them. So Real, Volume 16. I don't want to wait years for the next volume, but I will. I love this volume. I love Real. It's so good. Definitely highly recommend if you enjoy drama manga. I really enjoyed this one. Then I read The Summer Hikaru Died, Volume 6. Nothing new to say about this. I'm enjoying it. I think Volume 7 is already on its way to me, so that's exciting. Beast Complex, Volume 4. This is the spin-off of Beastars, focusing on just random characters and the way that the different characters interact, whether they're prey or predators or whatever. I love this manga. I could read 100 of these spin-off volumes and I would be extremely happy. I never get sick of them. They're all really fun, and seeing all the silly characters and the other things that happen. I don't even need like the little glimpses we get into the main characters from Beastars. I just like these random characters and what's going on with them. So this was fun. Actually, speaking of Paru Itagaki, I also read Sanda, Volume 2. I don't mind this story. I think it's interesting. My problem is this translation or the dialogue or whatever is really not doing it for me. I don't know, like I don't want to go around accusing them of using AI translations, because they do have quite a few people who they credit for the translations and the editing or whatever, but there's something going on with this translation. It is awkward. Sometimes it doesn't make sense. I mean, grammatically, it's fine, but the words that they're using that's just not how people talk. It doesn't make any sense. So yeah, I'm gonna give this one more volume to see if it gets better, but if it doesn't, I'm just not gonna support this anymore. Also, I mean, this is Titan manga. Their volumes, at least the ones in this format, they suck, to be honest. The ink is really bad. It's just, and I'm not someone who complains about the quality of manga, okay? I really don't care, but these ones, they're stiff and they're apparently not very readable in terms of the dialogue and translation or whatever. So yeah, this is really unfortunate because, as I mentioned, I love Haru Itagaki, so I don't want to have this issue with one of her manga, and I do enjoy the topics that are being brought up in here around childhood and stuff like that, but I don't like this product. I don't like this. I don't like spending money on this as a product, so we'll see. I will say, here's another Titan manga. This is Isekai Meddler. And I don't have the same problem as that one with this, but maybe because this is a comedy manga and it's all just jokes. So if the jokes were like weird dialogue, you could very easily tell. This is just made for me. I'm not sure everybody will enjoy this as much as I do, but I am a metalhead, so I enjoy all the metalhead jokes. I think it's extremely funny. The art, not very good. The actual story, I don't care. I just think it's really funny. So I'm enjoying this one. But again, it is this format of Titan manga, and I don't like that. But like I said, the rest of it is fine for me. And then some other random volumes I've been reading. I read 100 Ghost Stories That Will Lead to My Own Death, Volume 4. I really, really enjoy this manga. The actual short stories are good. I know that some people don't like them, but I think they're pretty good. But the main interesting part about this manga is the in-between sections with this little boy telling us these stories and the very strange, disturbing things that are happening to him. And every time that we get to the end of this volume, there's some kind of shocking moment that gives me chills. At least the past 2 volumes have, so really enjoying this one. And then I read What Did You Eat Yesterday, volume 23, which was so good. I love this volume so much. Here's the back of the volume. You can maybe tell what's happening. But yeah, this was amazing. I loved it. I really love this story and this manga, and Fumi Yoshinaga can do no wrong in my eyes. I will read as many of her works as I can get my hands on, and this one is great. I don't care about the cooking manga, the cooking part. I don't care. I don't care. But these two, I really like it. And throughout this quarter, I've also been trying out some volume 1s. So I have a few here. This is not all the volume 1s I've read, but these are all like horror ones that I've been reading. And I've been posting reviews on my Instagram. That's actually where I've been active more recently. So I read Divine Incursions Volume 1, Smile Volume 1, Grim Night Tales, Centuria, very hyped, and Immortality and Punishment. So I could talk about all these here, but I think I might end up doing another try a volume video with these and some other ones, and maybe some ones that are coming out soon. I will say that my favorite out of these so far is Smile for sure, and my least favorite, I want to say, was Grim Night Tales. That should tide you over, so you know some of my opinions for now. But yeah, if you want to see that video, let me know down below. I really like doing try a volume videos, and people seem to like them, so I think I'll save these for that. All right, so I guess I'll answer kind of a question I expect to have down below, is where I've been. Honestly, I just didn't feel like making videos. YouTube, I've been doing this for a long time. It's almost 12 years at this point that I've been making YouTube videos. I started out with just focusing on books, and then I went to books and manga, and I'm just doing manga on this channel anyway. And every now and then, I just decide I'm not interested in doing YouTube for whatever reason. When I was in college, it was hard to do it, so I wasn't doing it. And some other times I just lost interest in doing YouTube. This is a hobby for me, ultimately. I don't make money from this, really. I think for the 12 years I've been making videos, I think I've made like $300. And actually, they just took away my monetization because I wasn't making videos. I remember when anybody could have monetization. It didn't matter how small your channel was. Your videos were monetized and you could make money from them. But whatever. Like I said, I don't make any money from it really anyway, so that doesn't matter. But this is a hobby, and when I get stressed out at the idea of doing a hobby, that is a sign that I should not be doing that hobby right now. And it's not so much this that was stressing me out, although a little bit, but also just the world. It's really, really hard to focus on making YouTube videos when the world is the way it is. So that's just, to be frank, that's what I think about that. I could find the motivation to take a picture of a manga and write a little review and post it on Instagram, but the idea of sitting in front of this camera and talking for half an hour, whatever, I didn't like that idea, and I wasn't going to be able to be motivated to do that. But I have seen the people who commented and asked me if I was okay. I'm fine. I just wasn't interested in making videos, and I really appreciate the people who mentioned that they missed my videos. Thank you so much for that. That really does mean a lot to me, but I'm not going to force myself to make videos if I'm not motivated to do so. That's just, like I said, it's a hobby. So I'm not going to make any promises right now. I'm pretty much just going to do videos whenever I feel like it. I did used to try to do like a video per week, not really on a strict schedule, but usually on Sundays. I'm not committing to anything at this point. I will make videos when I feel like it. I've also been reading a lot of word books. I'm not losing interest in manga. Obviously, I love manga, but the fact of the matter is I have read a huge majority of what I own and also what I'm interested in. And so trying to come up with like 5 manga to read in the span of a month just isn't what my reading is looking like right now. I'm reading a lot of novels, which I'm loving, by the way. I'm really enjoying that, but that's just not conducive to a schedule for a YouTube channel about manga. But yeah, I think that's all I have to say in this video. If you have any questions or comments that you'd like to leave down below, please do so. I'd love to hear from you. And if you want to follow me on Instagram, I post stuff on there sometimes. I'm definitely more active over on there. So if you ever wonder if I haven't made a video in a while and you're wondering if I'm alive, you can go check over there. I know not everyone uses Instagram, but that's where I am right now mostly. But that's gonna be it for this video. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.